We've got with us Mayor D.C. Reeves. Mayor, today at your press conference, you spent the first 7 to 10 minutes focusing on public safety in light of the attack in New Orleans on New Year's Day. I know this is a lot of focus on your staff and PPD. Tell us what y'all's thoughts are on this.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think all of us, again, whether you know a family member or you have a friend or you have just good memories of when you grow up in Pensacola, you have some affinity or personal connection with New Orleans. So this isn't just something that may have been seen more prevalently in Europe where we're having terrorist activity using vehicles as a weapon. Obviously, it hitting not only the United States, but also so close to home to a community that we know well. I think it affects all of us, right? And so there's the emotional effect that it has and the concern and sadness you have for the families involved, like you do in any tragedy. But it also, I think, transcends a lot of the tragic things that happened in the country, in the sense that the same way 9/11 did, in the same way Columbine did, that we acted differently after that. And that, our security in schools changed in 1999. How we fly and what we're allowed to do at an airport changed in 2001, and for good reason. And I think, I can't speak for the entire country, of course, but I think considering our community, the military presence in our community, the celebrations and festivals that really is the fabric of who we are as a community, what we will not do is say, well, that was someone else. And because the number one job of this seat that I sit in is to keep you safe, keep your children safe, because everything else is window dressing when we don't have a safe community. So, but what we did immediately, what you would expect if that's your priority, which is within the hours after, we had an all hands meeting with our security team, a public safety team, which is not just the obvious, the police and fire, that's public works and parks and rec, and our public information, all those things that go into play with public safety. And really the sign was, one, let's assess where we are. And two is, let's take this new world that we live in after January 1st and let's cross filter that with what we do. So that's why I make that, and I did today, and continue to make the important distinction between this is not a reaction to what we believe to be an insufficient level of care that we have now. Again, look at our track record of safety at parades. I think it's pretty good. Before my 2 years, for the most part, I have such the utmost belief and confidence in our team to put things together. But what changed was January 1st. And how we can make a mistake or have an oversight, I believe, in public safety is to say, well, that wasn't us. That was 200 miles away. That's Bourbon Street, and that's not Pensacola. It only isn't Pensacola until it is. And so that's why we have to address it.
Now, you talked at the press conference today, but there's y'all are going through a very deliberate process. And I know you don't want to give specifics of changes in security because that would make us more vulnerable, but just an overview of the steps that y'all are taking.
So, a part of our strategy at this point is, as I told your media folks and yourself, our strategy is to gain amnesia real quick. And what I mean is how we designed, organized a parade or a festival on December 30th is different than it is on January 1st, to my earlier point. And so this is not about ego or what's always worked, because I would make a case that whether it be Pensacola or Mobile or Panama City, the safety designs of how we protect large groups and festivals may have had bad actors in mind, but it may not have been in the same iteration that we just saw. So, or hey, you know what? We need to secure this area because of what if a drunk driver gets behind and doesn't see the road? Well, now vehicles being used as weapons for terrorism is a completely different situation than that, with that type of intentionality. So we've asked, we've put down what we've always done, and we may come back and do what we've always done. That's okay. Might be the best optimum solution, even given the new world we live in. But we are reanalyzing everything that we do, every sidewalk we have, not just street, every intersection we have, not just the big ones, and all of that. And we do that, but it'll be an additional layer, additional intensity on that. And how we are approaching it in that analysis is let's consider money no object, relatively speaking, and let's work backwards from there, because public safety is the number one. If it's about money, if it's about, We don't get to explain that a decision was a financial one when some tragedy strikes. So that's how we're approaching it, is with this kind of fresh eyes and clean slate. And where we'll eventually get to is finding that right mix of what is needed, what do we need to go buy, what do we need to go have, what resources do we need to partner with locally at the state level, and come up with that nice all hands cohesive formula about where we go from here.
Well, and you also brought up that once y'all develop your plan is to bring in the county and bring in the sheriff's office and bring in, for sure, FDLE and others to look at, okay, maybe even the TDC, since some of these events are tourism oriented, how to get everybody to the table and figure out how to, pay for it.
Right.
Because there are going to be costs involved.
Well, and you have to, when you're analyzing these things, you always have to look at your largest public safety risk. And if we were to have a public safety incident, does the effect stay within the city limits? Of course not. It affects tourism, it affects our county, it affects our region, it affects our community. So we're all, again, this is about getting out of these old habits of saying, well, if it took place in the city limits, it's only a city project. Just in the same way, let's talk about, a less serious topic, but important, is economic development. If someone asks me to go meet with a business that's going to move to 9 Mile Road, you tell me what time to be there. I don't say, well, they're not moving to the city. What are they going to do? They're going to spend money in the city. They might live in the city. I mean, there's these other impacts, right, of things that do not live and die in and out of the city. I think public safety certainly is that. I've received no posture other than that from my time here with the county, with the sheriff's department. I want to be clear. This is not because I'm saying that they are unwilling to do that, but I think this has inspired kind of this is a community regional event, parades, festivals, seafood fest, arts fest. All of that is not limited to a benefit of a city resident. So if it isn't, then let's start to have conversations about how we can all improve safety outcomes, and be safe.
And that plays into Sheriff Simmons has been very aggressive on the real-time crime center. Mm-hmm. He's added more cameras. He's looking at it. They've got a mobile camera unit that was there for the Christmas parade, there for the Mardi Gras event. Recently, we're moving to where technology is important. You mentioned that y'all have gotten a grant for another drone to add to y'all's repertoire.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be approved at council in January or next week. And $75,000 grant from the state for drones. And that's what's great about having a good partnership with the sheriff is that they have resources, and obviously the number of calls that they serve, the amount of people they serve compared to inside the city limits is larger, and that means they've got additional resources, and that also means they've got resources that can be helpful to us strategically at the right times. And so, I mean, if there's ever been a topic that should never be governed by city limit lines, we understand the funding mechanism and the government mechanism of that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what side of the city limit line you live on. What we want is people to be safe. And so I appreciate Sheriff Simmons' posture about that. Certainly, I hope that they feel the same way. And I think we've shown it with the Real-Time Crime Center. We staff part of that. They have access to our cameras in the city, and that's how it should be. And that's how I hope it'll be going forward. And I know this will be no different. The Sheriff's Department, when I mentioned some of these short-term things coming up, Mardi Gras and some of these parades and others, and said, hey, if we can go ahead and plan on, having some resource help, and that's already moving right now. So this conversation. So, it's good to have that solid partnership with the sheriff, and I expect to see increased presence in some of these larger events moving forward.
Okay, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
About that man, and you see, we're just